Hey, Sean, are you there?
Yes, indeed. Well, nice on my camera. Oh, there we go. Morning, Randy.
There we go. I didn't have my sound turned on either. So I have a pair of Icelandics. They're a little bit fat. I mean, they're only a 97 waist, and I ski Scarpa F1s on them, so it's a little bit of a wide ski and a soft boot, and I love them. They're really comfortable to ski in some conditions. I won't say I love them actually, but when you decide to go skiing and make turns on a day when it's really icy, I mean, really hard, it's hard. They're a little harder to hold an edge on because of leverage in the softer boot. So I ordered up some new skis, and my other skis, I've got some old Solomon integral boots on an old Scream 10 pilot binding setup. They're a little longer, and I like those for cruisers, and I can use them in the bumps, but they're getting a little long for that now. I got them. What they said was too long for me at the time, but I pushed them pretty hard. So I got these. Anyway, I got some new skis and bindings, and I'm not positive the bindings could be set up to accommodate either boot because and so I want a good ski shop because they claim they can, but I'm not sure they can do it well. You know how some the walking surfaces on the AT boots can't be used with a lot of bindings because of the friction that rubber thing on the
Yep.
bottom causes.
Yep.
So it's got to be a binding that you can shim up or adjust up that'll lift the boot off the ski that micro fraction of an inch. So do you what shop do you like?
Bentgate.
Yeah, that's where I went last time.
Yeah. I got to show you something cool while we're waiting. So Bentgate is a blister approved shop. Have you ever heard of that magazine?
Yeah, yeah. I've actually not, paid any attention to it, but I know of it. Yeah,
It's a Clear Creek County kid on the cover this year.
that's Clear Creek County. Is that Mark Morris or who is it?
His name's Dylan Wood.
Oh yeah, way to go, bud.
Yeah, he works there. He's an editor at Blister. But yeah, Blister is basically 200 pages worth of like every single ski and boot out there. I actually bought the Scarpa F1 LTs this year and took those up to Canada.
I think they're, that when I talk to people, they talk about them being soft. What I like about them is I kind of like it that way anymore anyway, and trying to stay on the balls of my feet, as opposed to, stay in the center. You got to do that with them, but
Yeah, that's them right there at the bottom. They're 100 flex, which I think is plenty fine for skiing and powder. But
yeah,
they weigh less than 2 pounds each. They're like insanely, yeah,
yeah, that's
actually maybe a
mine.
little bit
Yeah,
more.
mine too. They're super light and really comfortable to walk in and really comfortable to ski in. And when you crank them down, they're they'll hold an edge even on hard pack. It's just, and I think actually, and that's why I got a little skinnier ski for this one. I got a Rosignol Experience 80 carbon, which is supposed to be a pretty good bump in all mountain ski. It'll be less so obviously for powder, but and I think with that narrower ski, the F1 would actually even hold on a hard pack icy slope. It's just that with the wider ski, the ski wants to lay down. You got to really stay on the outside ski pretty hard. But
Yeah, I actually was skiing some Black Diamond Carbon Helios 115s when I was up in British Columbia. Those are a little bit fat for a noodly boot like that, but they were fine.
yeah,
They were nice on the uppers, that's for sure.
with the F1s,
Hmm. Yeah, and the F1 actually has a new one called the F1 LT, which actually is even lighter. It has like a BOA adjustment on the front of your foot instead of buckles.
uh, oh, the front of the foot. So I've got that little pop down knob.
Yeah,
The
yeah, okay, yeah, maybe you have the LTs also, but yeah, they're super light or super nice.
I got them in
Those,
17. That's when I bought them. But
yeah, But yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm gonna get a knee brace though for sure before I start skiing again next month.
Yeah.
Found out yesterday that my battery in my GMC from 2014 is no longer quite up to the task for that type of weather.
Yeah. What'd you get down to?
It was 10 below zero at my house at one point.
Yeah, we were about 7 or 8 below this morning, I think. When Eileen looked at it, it was like 3 when I looked at it.
It's kind of comical. I got gas at Costco and I was listening to the radio and I wasn't really paying attention. And just the drain of the battery, listening to the radio while I was pumping gas, got to the point where my truck wouldn't start. And so I'm like, oh crap. And the guy behind me is in some big truck and he's like, you need to jump. I'm like, yeah. And the person comes booking out of the little shed, the little place where they hang out, and they're like, you can't jump, start your car right there. They said you have to push it over there. Like,
Oh yeah, because
I'm
he's
like,
worried about the sparks.
I just had knee surgery. I'm not going to be pushing anything
So stand back.
anywhere. Like, it's 5 below zero. I have a solution here, and I'm just going to do it. That's how this is going to happen.
Yeah, just tell him to stand back and observe the law of natural selection.
All right, I think we're just waiting for George.
So is Peter on? There's Peter. Peter, I have a question while we're waiting for George. How long do you think our exec session will take today?
It's completely dependent on you all and your discussion. It has to do with childcare.
Right.
So
I'm imagining it not be tremendously long, but
I don't think so. I would think about 15 minutes to a half hour at the most.
yeah. As I asked the question, I realized that maybe Sean and I were the right people to answer it.
Yeah, Mitch called me yesterday and gave me an update from kind of the school foundation's perspective, which was pretty helpful. Then I saw we got some other information. So yeah, I think we should be able to complete it in a fairly reasonable time frame.
I just texted George. I don't know if you guys had already reached out to him.
He sent an email at 8:57, so he's active.
We're gonna give George another 60 seconds, and then we're gonna get started without him.
Did Peter say he was trying to call him? Or should
I
I?
think Beth did.
Beth did? Didn't get him?
I just sent him a text.
I know he had a pipe burst in his house yesterday.
Oh,
Please leave your message for 30.
Yeah, I just tried to call him. It went right to voicemail. Okay, well, I know there's people here waiting to talk about this, have this conversation today. And I know the first thing on the agenda is public comment. I see we have a number of visitors on the attendee list. If anyone would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand, and then Beth can elevate you to become a panelist, and you can give us your 3-minute comment. And we'll take it from there. I don't see anybody raising their hand, so let's just get started. The matter at hand. We're here to discuss the mask mandate and removing the mask mandate that was put in place, whatever it was, a couple of months ago, 6-8 weeks ago, whatever it was. And Tim,
Shauna, there is someone with their hand raised.
oh, hold on. Okay, I didn't see that. Is it Jennifer? Who is it,
Hi.
Wendy? Okay. Okay, the floor is
Hello.
yours. Please make your comment. Actually, state your name and your address first, and then make your comment to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, my name is Jennifer Yodsky. My address is 310 Virginia Street in Idaho Springs.
Okay, thanks. And by the way, Beth, George is in the attendees list, so you move over. Okay, go ahead, Jennifer.
And I guess just regarding the ordinance, the resolution, about, I just feel like it would be really beneficial to everybody if it could be a choice to wear masks at the school, at least. I understand that some people want to wear them, and there's other people that don't. And I just feel it, since it's being rescinded across the county, if it could be extended. And I know the school district has their own, they decide for themselves, but I know they're influenced by you all, especially Dr. Ryan. And I appreciate all of you guys' hard work. You guys are great. I just feel as far as the school, I know Dr. Ryan's #1 objective is, or goal is to keep the kids in school, and I agree with that 100%. They do learn easier and better at school and not remotely. But in the school, they are socially distanced. And also at lunchtime, they eat with the same kids. They eat in pods. And so I feel the school is doing an excellent job of controlling it. And they're doing the testing twice a week, which I hope will go away soon, because I know this is another topic, but I just want to touch it briefly, that the system is not working as far as the testing of the athletes. They get tested, they don't get the results back in time, they go play a game, and then they have to be, a child was taken out of school. I knew 2 of them, and they had brought back negative tests. It was because, and it's humiliating for a child to be taken out of school. They weren't even sick. They didn't have any symptoms. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the masks. I do hope that the testing can go away, though. I feel it's unfair and not reliable. Back to the masks. If we could just make it a choice for kids at the school. If you could just please consider that. And that, I feel, is a compromise for both sides. I know this is a really tough situation, and we're all trying to work together. And I think we all respect, we may not agree with the other side. I shouldn't, it is heartbreaking that there's 2 sides to all this, but I'm facing reality. I mean, there is. And if we could just come together and work on a compromise for the school, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time. I appreciate everything y'all do for the county. And peace and love. That's all I got.
Okay, thanks so much. And Peter, I'm going to ask you a clarifying question, which I'm pretty sure I know the answer to. The discussion we have in front of us today that we're going to vote on is not related to the public health order related to the school district. Is that correct?
That is correct. That resolution and that order from Board of Health Resolution 21-05 remains completely unaffected by any action today and is not on the board for on the agenda for consideration today.
Would it be possible for us to have a brief discussion about it, kind of in advance of maybe a future conversation?
In terms of if you want to schedule another discussion about it, we can place it on a regular agenda to have it, but we can't today. There's nothing noticed about discussing that resolution on the agenda today.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. All right, so we have another attendee, Justin Scott. You had your hand up. If you'd like to make a public comment, raise your hand again. Otherwise, I'll assume that you did that accidentally. Oh, now you're over here. Well, you're here as a panelist. If you have something to say, now's your time.
Yeah, I was going to just echo what Jennifer had to say. Since she spoke, I understand that's not part of your agenda, so I'm not sure it's relevant.
Yeah, go ahead. And you can make your statement and let us know where you live before you get started.
So my name is Justin Scott. I live at 259 Scepter Circle in Georgetown. And I just agree with everything Jennifer said. I mean, it seems silly to unmask the entire county except for the healthiest population in the county. It's really very little common sense to masking kids in school. Like it's a social disadvantage to the kids. There's a lot of disadvantages to the kids and not very many advantages for them. So I'm just in agreement with her, and I know, like she said, you guys have a lot of influence on the school. I don't think they do much without your blessing. So I think it's kind of up to you guys to steer that ship.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for your comment. I mean, you heard this is not something that we're going to be discussing today, but as one of the commissioners, I agree it is something that we need to I'd like to discuss very soon. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comments and move into our agenda. The first item to be considered is the consideration approval of resolution 22-01, rescinding resolution 21-06, resolution requiring facial coverings in public where social distancing cannot be maintained and facilitating contact tracing. And maybe one thing that would be appropriate, I know that there was a couple of changes. I believe that we are lifting the contact tracing. Peter, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a kind of a brief description of what we're going to be voting on today.
Sure, absolutely. So originally when COVID, excuse me, first became an issue, the board created something called a standing order that had to do with facial coverings, as well as something that facilitated rather contact tracing. And contact tracing is essentially when public health reaches out to various people who may have been affected to do what they call case and outbreak investigations. So traditionally, what we've done typically over the past year and a half is if the face covering order was lifted, we still left the requirement that businesses and any public indoor space comply with contact tracing investigations. When we did resolution 2104, which the last time around had removed the face coverings, we left in the contact tracing. But we at that time actually rescinded the original standing order and everything related to it. So all you had left was contact tracing. In resolution 2106 of the Board of Health, we brought back the face coverings and of course reaffirmed the need to do contact tracing. Today, what we're doing is actually rescinding that resolution in its entirety. And part of the reason that we're not maintaining the requirement on a local level to do contact tracing is because after my discussions with Dr. Ryan, he very appropriately pointed out that there are already state requirements. The law already makes it a requirement under regulations that anybody that is exposed or has contact report that and also comply with any case and outbreak investigations. So rather than leave this contact tracing requirement out there, when, knock on wood, maybe this will be the last COVID resolution we have to do for a while. I did not want to leave something out there that maybe 3 years from now, we forgot we needed to rescind, essentially. Since we're covered by the state anyway, there's really no reason to do that. That's why this is just a clean rescission of 2106. It drops the mask mandate and it drops the local requirement for contact tracing. People will still need to comply with that requirement because it's a state requirement.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. George, Randy, do you have any questions about that?
I do. First, let me just,
if I could just say one more thing. Again, this has nothing to do with resolution 2105 from the Board of Health relating to face coverings in schools. Okay, this is completely separate. So when we lift this is for public indoor spaces in a different capacity. Schools are handled differently through 2105. This remains unaffected. And this resolution actually does state that this does not affect other public health orders that are in effect. Thank you. Sorry. Just wanted to add that.
Thanks,
No problem.
Peter. Go ahead, George.
yeah, first, just let me apologize to the team and the public for being late to this meeting. I somehow had it in my calendar at 9:30. That's my mistake. If you have tried to work with me, you'll know that calendar management is my biggest challenge. So please accept my apology. Question for you, Peter, just related to the structure of this order. I'm a little confused, and this is largely semantics. We're rescinding the order, but it looks like it will continue to exist as an order. So is there something that I'm missing here? Because it says the public health order shall become effective at 11:59 p.m. And so I guess I was understanding the action would be to not have a public health order, to just remove that public health order rather than modify it and leave it in place without anything inside it.
Yeah, and we can absolutely, I understand exactly what you're saying. We can absolutely change it so that aspect is clearer. What I wanted to make sure everybody knew is that it's dropped, and it's dropped at a particular time. But if you take that action now, we can simply make it effective now because it's rescinded and it's done and the order would be done. And that's fine. We'll make the modification on the final version that gets approved. So we'll actually remove that and leave it at that. Once it's approved, it's done.
Is there any implication of that in what you just stated right before that about Health Order 21-05?
No relation whatsoever to that.
So there's no way for this to be construed as having rescinded 2105 by virtue of its blanket statements.
Correct.
It doesn't, it simply rescinds resolution 2106, and I feel safe with that. Just wanted to make sure that because you mentioned that this states specifically that 2105, I don't see a reference to 2105. What it does say is that it doesn't, nothing in this order shall be construed to preempt any other public health orders. That should cover it right there.
That's exactly why we have that exact language. And I specifically did not say 2105 because I'm not sure that there's not any other public health orders out there. I don't believe there are, but in discussing that with Dr. Ryan, we thought leaving it that general way would therefore cover any confusion.
Okay. So you would just eliminate bullet point 3.
Yeah, the effective time, we can take that out.
Okay, any other questions for Peter before I turn this over to Dr. Ryan?
So the only question I have is then when does it become effective? At the moment we vote?
Yes. The moment you vote, if you approve it, resolution 2106 is rescinded and that is done. Which means you could leave where you are and go have lunch in Clear Creek County without your mask on. I don't think Dr. Ryan would be thrilled about that, but you can do that.
Okay, sounds like we're ready for you, Tim. Take it away.
Morning, everyone. So the situation as it is right now, as you're all aware, we have a steady decline in cases, not only across the United States, but in Colorado and in Clear Creek County. Enforcement and compliance with this public health order out in public spaces, restaurants, stores, et cetera, is becoming increasingly difficult. And given those two scenarios and feedback from a lot of the businesses in terms of trying to enforce this and the significant challenges that occur, in addition, the limited time that individuals spend in public places. You're not in the grocery store for hours on end. You're not in restaurants for hours on end or shops for hours on end. And the vast majority of people who are in those places are not Clear Creek County residents. So to release a burden from the Clear Creek County residents, and in light of all the other things that I just said, I think rescinding this at this time it's a little premature. I would recommend people wearing face masks in public, but I understand the challenges for business owners and for others related to that.
Okay, that sounds reasonable to me. George, Randy?
Yeah, I move that we approve resolution 21, Board of Health, resolution 21-01, rescinding resolution Public Health Order 21-06.
And one thing I was neglecting, I did not mention, we are sitting now before you as the Board of Health, not as the Board of County Commissioners.
Right.
And if I could just offer a friendly amendment, even though I'm not the one to offer it, I want to suggest that it will be modified to remove that effective date language.
Yeah, as soon as you began to speak, I realized I had failed to say that.
That's all right.
Eliminating bullet point number 3.
Okay. I'll second that motion. And maybe I just want to address, there's a little bit of brevity to the conversation right now about this. I know that we spent a good amount of time discussing this topic on Tuesday during our COVID update. And so I just want to kind of reference that for the public if you want to go and see an extended version of the rationale that we all had. A very short version of it right now is that really it's CU School of Public Health's modeling, I think, that has given the confidence to public health agencies across the metro area to do this, including us. And the general highlight is that projections show that even in the worst case scenarios of reductions in transmission control, we should not overwhelm our hospital system. And that what that means is that at this time we can have confidence that we cannot have this mask order without overwhelming our hospital system. And I know that that's been the policy goal of this board and of public health boards across the state and nation, is to make sure that people have access to quality healthcare when they need it. And this isn't just when they need it for COVID, right? This is when they need elective procedures, et cetera. So I just wanted to provide that rationale so that people can see that. If you want to look at this document, it's very interesting. The CU School of Public Health Modeling, if you just Google that, you can probably go take a look at it. And I think it does a pretty good job of describing the path forward in this pandemic and the reasons why they're confident in that projection. So I'll just stop there with that second. Thank you for the time for me to sort of reiterate something you heard on Tuesday.
Thanks, George. And you did just second it, right?
Yes, that is a second.
Okay, perfect. So we have a proper motion and a second. The only thing that I'll add to the conversation is early in the pandemic, probably much too early, I asked that we at some point schedule somewhat of a after action analysis and report to kind of go back and look at some of the decisions we made and document perhaps some learnings so that whoever happens to be sitting in these chairs when something like this happens again will benefit from what we learned and what we got right and the mistakes that we made. And I do think that we're probably closer to being ready to have that conversation. And I think that these orders are probably part of that conversation. But with that said, I think it's still premature to have that. But at some point, I am interested in documenting that. And the other thing, I very much appreciate the comments about masking in the schools. And I don't really have a fully formed opinion about that yet, but I think it is incumbent upon this board to revisit that conversation as well. And I'm fine waiting until the meeting on the 15th, unless somebody else wants to have that a little bit sooner.
I don't need to.
Sean, I agree with you. I do think it's incumbent on us to take a look at the testing and the masking. I think that doing that on the 15th makes sense for a handful of reasons. A couple of them that come to mind right now is that it will give us time to be well informed. I know Sean and Randy and I all, in advance of making a decision like this, spend a couple of hours looking at the data and opinions and everything else. As well as we know that some other districts are dropping their mandates right now. It'd be nice to learn from their experience. And I want to give staff time to deliver us, a good, thoughtful analysis of the data. I know I intend to reach out to staff to just make them aware of the kinds of information that would inform a decision.
Yeah, that sounds fine. And yeah, if it's possible for us to be able to consider action on the 15th, I think that would be ideal in my mind. But I don't know that we need to get that figured out right here. It wasn't really on our agenda, but I just wanted to make mention of it. So any final comments, George, Randy, before we vote?
No, I don't think so. I think the only thing I would say is that there's nothing, I will speak for myself. There's nothing in our rescinding this resolution that does not continue our advice to wear masks and stay healthy and to be vaccinated. You should be vaccinated and you should wear masks in appropriate environments indoors. It is the safest thing to do. It does make a difference. Contrary to many statements, other statements I've heard, it has not been proven to not make a difference. It's not being rescinded because it was a failed strategy. It's been rescinded because we're down to a point and then there are other mitigating factors in terms of some social impacts. You're still safer due to aerosolization when you're indoors with a number of people in a building wearing your masks, and please get vaccinated because it makes a huge difference. It is not a significant risk still compared to the risk of not being vaccinated. And the reason I believe as a non-professional that one of the reasons that there are elements of the last wave that we just had, which were in ways less deadly, is because the number of people that have become vaccinated, and they've helped reduce the risk to the general population. And I hope that that's shared generally among our county commission members and our public health director.
Thanks, Randy. All in favor of rescinding resolution 21-06 requiring facial coverings in public signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for your public comments, public, and for the attendance. We're done with our public portion of the meeting today, and we have an executive session, as was mentioned early on, to have a conversation with our attorney regarding the regarding childcare, as we discussed a couple days ago. So with that said,
before we get into that, I just wanted to just get some clear direction, because I didn't follow, but maybe I missed it. For the next meeting, we do want a discussion of resolution, Board of Health Resolution 2105. Do you intend to take any action at that time? So I can determine whether this is an action session, and more importantly, to even determine what a resolution like that might look like. I would tell you, my suggestion is that you have the conversation, determine what it is, if any changes you would want, and then we could always bring it back either in a special meeting or at the subsequent Board of Health meeting 2 weeks later. We could set one up and have that addressed. I just want to be clear what we're looking for.
so speaking just for myself, it seems like that resolution would be very simple. It would be very almost analogous to the one that you prepared today, Peter. So I personally don't see any disadvantage of having the opportunity of taking action if we decide that's prudent. I don't think that there's any advantage of dragging this out any longer than it needs to be. I think it's better to have choices than not to have choices, essentially.
Yeah, I think Sean frames it well. In general, I think that I'm more likely to enter into that conversation. I want to have some time to hear the opinions of the public, my colleagues, and the public health director, and then reflect on it for a couple of days. I think we have established a pattern of kind of talking about these policy decisions on a Tuesday and then coming back on a Thursday or a Friday. And I kind of like that. All of that said, we're just talking about having the option. And I'm okay with having the option.
Yeah, it doesn't, yeah, I'm certainly not fearful of having the option. I think we'll make the decision we're going to make anyway, based on a number of factors we all think about, and a lot of calculus. And so I don't see any reason not to have a resolution prepared. And then we should have a conversation. And generally speaking, I like the idea of having some time, since we can't talk about it today and we haven't talked about it. We can't have a robust discussion. We don't have the perspective of the school district and the public health director on that particular one today, and can't. My expectation would be that I'd be disinclined to listen to some stuff that day unless it was unanimously supportive, and just jump right on it and take that action that day. I want some time to think too.
So the only other
but I think it's fine to have it there.
Okay, so the only other question is, we can certainly create it as an action item. If you recall the last Board of Health meeting where the school district matter was discussed, that meeting ran at least 2 hours with all the public comment. I just want to make sure for staff's purposes that we understand that in terms of scheduling at the next meeting, that this could have a much broader amount of public comment. I also want to point out, at the next meeting, I believe, is a presentation that we're going to have on Mount Evans. Just a presentation. Isn't that?
No, not on the 15th.
I'm sorry. You know what? I'm already in March.
It's on March 1st.
Thank you. I'm already in March. That's my fault. Okay, good. So just so you know, we might have a robust discussion on the health order in 2 weeks.
Yeah, just for the record, the discussion on Mount Evans will be only from about 10 to 11:30 on March 1st. So without public comment specifically during that session for that purpose. And there'll be another public comment session to follow that on a later date.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be, anyway, 10 to 11:30 is all it needs to be blocked out for that.
Do you guys want me to placeholder 10 to 12 on Tuesday for this continuing discussion?
On February 17th.
Oh,
How about I'd like to see what the agenda looks like before we. make that
February
decision.
15th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to solve that problem right now.
Right.
here.
Let's compile the agenda and we'll figure out what makes sense then.
Okay.
I think I agree. And this is the last thing, just to kind of form that up, is one of the problems with posting for action and asking staff to bring a resolution is that resolution isn't informed by our conversation.
Right.
And so it can be kind of hard to have that and to try to construct a resolution in the midst of a meeting alongside staff. And the reason I'm saying that, and Sean, I hope you're connected and hearing me. The reason I'm saying that is because whether it's within the resolution or on the side of the resolution, I think what would be very helpful would be for staff to bring us options, right? And kind of try to help us understand the set of options that we have. That might be informed by what's happening around the state, et cetera. So Sean, I basically just took a long time to say, in addition.
I heard you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I don't have no issue with my camera. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think that the kind of vanilla version of the resolution is removing the previous public health order, but just as today we made a modification on the fly, I think that's. I think we can. I think Peter can manage. So, anything else, Peter, before it's time to go to our executive session?
No, and thank you for indulging my question.
Happy to. So with that said, I move the board move into executive session to discuss the following matters.
Pursuant to CRS 24640224B and E, for the county attorney to meet with the Board of County Commissioners for the purposes of 1, receiving legal advice on specific legal questions pertaining to partnering with other public entities to provide employer-based early childcare, and 2, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators with regard to intergovernmental agreements for that purpose.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The board will now, the Board of County Commissioners will now move into executive session where no decisions will be made and no minutes will be kept. So you guys
We have a Zoom link.
I'm going to send it. My email froze, so I'm going to try and do that in a minute.
Sorry, Sean. Didn't mean to do
Thanks.
it.
Thanks.
All right, we have a quorum again, so we have returned from our executive session sitting as the Board of County Commissioners. No written minutes were made, no decisions were made. We are now sitting again as the Board of Health, and we are concluding our business for today. And this meeting is terminated. So I'll see everybody. We're meeting next Wednesday at 9 o'clock to discuss a matter related to childcare that will be publicly noticed, and I'll see everyone then.
Thanks, everyone.